In the northeast of England, you'll find a proud city with a tough, cold, industrial background, but one that is also home to one of England's biggest football clubs, Sunderland AFC. Nicknamed the Black Cats, their red and white striped shirts were an ever-present in the First Division, being involved in some of English football's most iconic moments, before in the space of just 357 days they'd be relegated twice and fall into the third tier for just the second time ever. With an owner refusing to pay bills and players on ridiculous wages, things were looking dark at the Stadium of Light, until fortune finally changed for the club. This is the story of Sunderland AFC's incredible rise, fall and rise once again. Formed in October 1879 as the Sunderland District Teachers AFC and renamed to just Sunderland AFC a year later, the Black Cats saw an incredible rise to success, largely thanks to their geographical location, which allowed them to pick out some of the best Scottish talents before any other English side. And in just their second season in the First Division, Sunderland would win the league in 1892 and then repeat their win the following season, even being nicknamed the Team of All Talent, a title never more fitting than in their record-breaking 9-1 away win against fierce rivals Newcastle in 1908. Sunderland would also win another league title a few years later before moving to Roker Park, lifting another 2 leagues by the First World War, where they were largely regarded as one of, if not the most successful club in the country alongside Aston Villa. However, following a 20-year wait for their next title in 1936, Sunderland would fail to match their pre-World War success. The Black Cats would then be relegated for the first time in 1958, and bar a few promotions and relegations, nothing really happened until the remarkable 72-73 campaign, where despite being in the second division, the Black Cats found themselves in the FA Cup final, beating Don Reevy's Leeds to lift the trophy. Once again though, Sunderland would see another period with a lack of much success to celebrate, even dropping into the third tier for a single season, before finally in 1996 the Black Cats played their first season in the new English Premier League, before moving out of their infamous Roker Park a year later. Sunderland would then continue to bounce around the first and second tier for the next decade or so, before American businessman Ellis Short gained control of the side in September 2008. For the first few years of his tenure, Sunderland were a disappointing side, before a terrible end to the 2012-13 season saw them drop down to 17th, with Paolo Di Canio replacing manager Martin O'Neill in March, the start of a truly ridiculous manager merry-go-round at the club. Early into the next campaign, Di Canio would be fired and replaced by Gus Poirier as the club sat bottom of the Premier League all the way through to mid-April, set for relegation, before they then saw a miraculous escape as Sunderland won 4 of their last 6, taking points over title challengers Manchester City and beating Chelsea before a 1-0 win against reigning champions United at Old Trafford all but secured their safety. The next season would be no better though, with Sunderland once again being in the relegation zone late into the campaign, seeing another managerial change and incredibly another great escape, as Dick Advocaat kept them up with just 1 loss in their final 6 games. And now, like a broken record, they started the next season poorly. Advocaat was sacked, and with the club bottom of the league, Sam Allardyce took over, where you guessed it, he guided them to safety with just 1 loss in the final 11 games being just enough, having been 18th with only 3 games to go. By this summer, however, things had reached their worst. As Allardyce left for the England job, fans wanted Short out, with reckless spending crippling their finances and an infamous legal situation simply being too much to overcome. David Moyes would be appointed, however caused controversy along the way as the club hit rock bottom in September, staying there for the whole season. Following their relegation on the 29th of April 2017, Moyes would swiftly leave the club at the end of the campaign, being replaced by Simon Grayson. Players would also come and go in the summer, however fortunes would not change, as Simon Grayson lasted just 18 games with Sunderland bottom of the league, being replaced by Chris Coleman in November, who brought hope to the Stadium of Light, as a home win on the 16th of November 2017 was their first in 364 days in all competitions. However, before any Sunderland fans could get optimistic, their top scorer Lewis Grabban would then request his parent club Bournemouth to recall him from loan. And then various times over the rest of the season, Sunderland would find themselves ahead in games before going on to throw away the win, shown by 3 straight draws in April where they bottled the lead, and then a final loss against Burton Albion, having been in the lead all the way through to the 86th minute where ex-player Darren Bent equalised to send them down again. This relegation was just the second time Sunderland had ever dropped down to the third tier, with manager Chris Coleman even stating he didn't know what the club could do and whether there was even a plan for the future. From £100,000 equipment used by just one man to the signing of Jack Rodwell, Ellis Short's reckless spending had seen the club collapse. In the 9 years since he'd gained full control of the club, Ellis Short oversaw 14 separate managers, 2 relegations and 6 straight relegation battles, millions of pounds of overspending in poor areas rather than solving blatant problems at the club, controversy after controversy, all funding being pulled out of the club on top of so much more, making up the worst spell in Sunderland AFC history.
BBC Look North. Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
First question is why Sunderland?
Well, it's Sunderland. Simple as that.
The new owners immediately stamped their authority on the squad, as 15 players were brought in to counteract the 23 departures, as well as a new manager in Jack Ross. However, it would be the Youth Academy graduate Josh Maja who was the star of this team. Life in League One started well for Sunderland, where after 20 games they'd lost just once, with Josh Maja's 12th goal of the season sealing them a win against Bristol Rovers before a huge match against top of the league Portsmouth. Going into the game, Sunderland sat in 3rd place, however had 2 games in hand, meaning a win would put them into a prime spot to finish in the top 2, but in an intense Fratton Park the Black Cats would lose 3-1 away from home. More importantly though, Josh Maja would be benched for the massive fixture, supposedly due to illness. However, a few weeks later it was confirmed that he'd be leaving the club in January, signing for French side Bordeaux for just £1.5 million. The drama around Maja's situation had also seemed to affect on-field performances, as Sunderland went on to draw 7 of their 9 games between the 29th of December and the 15th of February, with Will Grigg failing to hit the ground running, having been signed for a huge £3 million on deadline day. Sunderland were able to get back into form though going into the 31st of March, where a run in the EFL Trophy saw them face up against Portsmouth once again, this time at Wembley, and after a last-minute equaliser from Aidan McGeady, the game went to penalties.
McGeady steps up for Sunderland. Smith steps up now for Sunderland. Steps up. Hadman. Minimal run up. Kiss to win the Checkatrade Trophy for Portsmouth. He does just that.
Following heartbreak at Wembley, the Black Cats won just 3 of their final 9 games, finishing the season in 5th, meaning once again they'd come up against Portsmouth in the playoffs in what is arguably the most iconic playoff semi-final matchups in recent years.
3 in the middle, Gooch to the cross, Honeyman! Matlock perfectly placed, 5 back in by Maguire! Gareth Evans! After coming on from the bench, he stepped up and scored, and there's a little bit of afters there. Sunderland will take a 1-goal lead to Fratton Park on Thursday. This is not over. Hawkins, the inevitable target. Gareth Evans! Brown's cross. Hawkins closing in! Front of the ladder. It's a all now. It looks like Liquornine was okay. London, prepare yourself. The city of Sunderland will be invading again at the end of May.
Was there contact towards you?
The bank kind of falls, so I kind of went over the board and they had a few digs. They had a few digs at me, but that's just that's football. So it's fine.
Finally, Sunderland had gotten the better of Portsmouth, making it to Wembley for the 2nd time in a few months, where they'd face up against 3rd place Charlton.
Back here. Oh, the goalkeeper's missed it! And it's an incredible own goal! Comes back here, struck well. Aribo, wide to Lyle Taylor, and a tap-in for 1-1. Just 10 seconds to go. You need to get the ball in now. In it goes, a chance. Bauer! He's done it! Promotion for Charlton Athletic with just seconds to go.
Following another heartbreak at Wembley, the new season wouldn't get any better for the Mackhams, as a poor start to the season saw them 15th in the league after 20 games, with fans starting to grow unhappy with the board. A disappointing summer window had seen them fail to progress from their struggles at the end of the previous campaign, and despite League One promotion specialist Phil Parkinson coming in for Jack Ross, things didn't look good, into a fairly innocuous 2-1 win against Doncaster on the 29th of December. They would then lose just once in the next 12 games, rising into the playoffs, before a little bump in March saw them drop out momentarily. However, nonetheless, Sunderland looked set to have at least another shot at playoff glory, before the country was suddenly hit by a global pandemic. Sunderland would then finish 8th on points per game, a harsh decision given their good form in the calendar year. However, nonetheless it meant a 3rd season in a row of League One football, and more importantly once again their lowest ever finish in the Football League. Sunderland fans had seen their team fail again and again, repeating the same mistakes, and the new season wouldn't be much different. A poor start led to the manager being replaced. Fans were given some hope in the form of a new owner and a good run of form to end the season. However, they would once again be knocked out in the playoffs, this time by Lincoln, to confirm a 4th season in League One. Things would be a little bit different in the new season, however the theme remained the same, as Sunderland went from topping the league going into the new year to sacking their manager after a 6-0 loss just a month later, before Alex Neil led them back to the playoffs. The Mackems would face up against Sheffield Wednesday in the semis, winning 2-1 on aggregate to take them back to Wembley, this time facing up against Wycombe. Sunderland had finally escaped League One, investing smartly in the summer as Jack Clarke was signed on a permanent, as well as loan deals for Ellis Sims and Amad Diallo, with the side seeing an impressive start to the season. However, as you should know by now, things simply never go to plan for the Black Cats. Alex Neil would leave for Stoke City, being replaced by Tony Mowbray, who against the odds had managed to lead Sunderland to 4th place going into the new year, before second top scorer and vital man Ellis Sims was then recalled from loan by Everton. Sunderland were already light for numbers up top before Sims' departure, and then just a few weeks later their top scorer Ross Stewart was injured for the season, leaving them without a proper option up top before Joe Gelhardt was loaned in from Leeds. And with both of their top scorers now gone, a poor run of form in February and March saw just one win in 9 games, as the Black Cats sat 11th with no hope of playoffs just a few weeks before the end of the season.
Sunderland pull it out of the bag at the last. 3 big goals to go with 3 points taken by Blackburn, and they make it to the playoffs. They were the better team here.
An incredible run of form, fueled largely by Amad Diallo and Jack Clarke, saw Sunderland sneak into 6th place on the final day before the playoffs, where they'd come up against Luton Town, playing the role of hosts first in what would be another incredibly dramatic playoff clash.
Corner kick, Jordan Clark beating for it. Gelhardt got something on it, back into the box it goes. That's a brilliant save, but into the roof. There, Nico Nyan's in there. It's touched to Diallo. His favoured right. Oh, it's in. Robinson blows his whistle, and it's Tony Mowbray Sunderland who have a narrow advantage. In goes that corner kick. It's headed down by Lockyer, and it's put in. Front on the night and level the tie. Nico Nyan is in there, and it's a great save at the near post to deny it. Sunderland are appealing handball.
It's just as McGrath places that ball back. He's got to be right. That is handball.
Clark's away, and the goalkeeper has dropped it. Morris is blocked on the right. Curled back in by Alfie. Down into the net. Luton lead in the tie. Know why we're still playing. We're not now. Luton Town are heading to Wembley. What a wonderful...
Who knows what the future holds for Sunderland, with big boys in Leicester, Leeds and Southampton all being relegated. However, with Amad Diallo happy to return for another season, Sunderland are certainly in a better position now than they were 5 years ago, on and off the pitch. For a long time, Sunderland were England's best club. However, over a century later, and they saw themselves in their lowest ever point, with their fans having seen their souls ripped out time after time. And having seen their biggest rivals being taken over, the Mackems have been through it all. However, progress in recent years mean they can hope that a return to the top flight for them is coming. After all, they were once known as the team of all talents.